Retro Quickies, AD&D Dragons of Flame. I'm gonna be honest here, I'm legitimately impressed. This is a direct sequel that changes almost none of the formula from the original, but just tightens up what was already there and makes it better. Heroes of the Lamps was clumsy, clunky, slow, and not particularly fun to play. This one speeds things up, gives a bit more story, feels a bit more balanced in terms of actually fighting the enemies, and gives you some stuff to look at that isn't just gray hallways, though you do have some of those too. And for some reason, it was only ever released in Japan. What I'm playing here is a fan translation, so Mr. DVD, if you're out there watching this, thank you for your hard work, I appreciate it. The game starts with you needing to travel to the dungeon in a Zelda 2-like overhead fashion. You can find some NPCs around that will point you in the right direction and occasionally give you some basic healing items. If you run into an enemy, you engage in a side-scrolling stab fest like the first game. And when you finally get to the dungeon, you basically have a repeat of the first game, making your way through a maze-like dungeon. Though, at least you get through multiple varying environments as you explore the mazes, and there's even some dialogue and conversation between characters here and there, which is a nice touch for those of us who actually like to see story in our older games. The party setup is the same as the older games. You have 8 playable characters, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, an offensive magic user and a healing cleric who has a limited amount of magical charge that they can use through the full game. But sadly, much like the first game, there isn't really much of a reason to switch between characters and just keep using the one that has a lot of strength to handle a majority of the melee combat. You don't have to worry about other characters in the front line taking damage this time around, so that's nice, and you attack a lot faster as well, and the turbo button actually helps out a lot in this game too. Once you find the dungeon though, the game basically is the exact same as it was the first time around, with you traveling through a maze-like dungeon in hopes of finding your way through to the end and beating the boss at the end. You can pick up a bunch of shiny stuff and new weapons along the way, but all things considered, it's mostly just to get a better score at the end. A lot of the same issues do crop up at this point, unfortunately. Finding your way around is still difficult, and most of the time, I made progress by complete accident. There's a hidden area that you can find to restore your health, and another that not only restores your magic power, but also gives you a very important hint for stopping the penultimate boss. Spoiler alert, the big bad dragon enemy in this game is weak to magic missile of all things, so you aren't left totally in the dark, just mostly in the dark. And once again, you really don't have to switch up your party formation or who you're controlling that much. Just use someone with a lot of strength and you can pretty much turbo button or mash your way through, especially since, much like the first game, the magic charge is very generous. So the odds of you running out of free healing that you can access at any time from the menu is pretty slim. This includes raising dead party members so long as their bodies are still nearby, though that does take a lot of charge. In the end, I actually managed to beat this one, mostly by blind luck. Mostly because, as I said, it's basically Heroes of the Lance again, just with all the controls tightened up and the systems slightly more streamlined, which makes it an overall more comfortable experience. But if you didn't like the sensation of running around like a rat in the maze from the first game, this one probably won't change your mind. I'd still recommend this one over the first game if you're at all curious about giving it a try, but that's not really an option for physical copies if you live in America. I'm still baffled why they only used a very small part of the game for this sort of overhead exploratory part, and it just completely disappears after you reach the dungeon. It was also released for a ton of home computer versions, but the home console port never left Japan, and I really do not know why. It's almost as confusing as trying to learn Thaco. No, I'm never gonna stop making that joke.